In the year 2150, humanity had spread across the stars, establishing colonies on distant planets and mining outposts in asteroid belts. The United Earth Defense Force, UEDF, was tasked with protecting these far-flung territories. Despite their advancements, humanity knew they were not alone in the cosmos. They had encountered other species, some peaceful, others hostile, but none as advanced and powerful as the Drakari. The Drakari were an ancient and formidable race, known for their advanced technology and martial prowess. Their empire spanned vast regions of space, and their warships were the stuff of legend. When a Drakari warship, the Ardent Fang, appeared in the Sol system without warning, it set off alarm bells across Earth's defense network. The UEDF scrambled to respond, fearing an invasion. Earth's most advanced warships, including the flagship UEDF Titan, were deployed to intercept the Drakari vessel. Tensions were high as the two fleets faced off in the cold void of space, weapons primed and ready. Aboard the Ardent Fang, Colonel Zalara, a high-ranking Drakari officer, observed the human response with keen interest. She had expected a show of force, but was impressed by the rapid and coordinated deployment of Earth's defenses. Despite the tension, she knew that her mission was too important to allow hostilities to break out. Zalara requested an audience with Earth's leaders, transmitting a message of peace and urgency. The UEDF, wary but intrigued, agreed to a meeting. In a heavily fortified conference room on the UEDF Titan, Zalara met with General Marcus Hayes, the commander of Earth's defense forces, and other top officials. Zalara's appearance was imposing. Standing over 7 feet tall, with iridescent scales and piercing violet eyes, she exuded an air of authority and confidence. Her presence commanded respect, and as she spoke, her voice was calm but resolute. "General Hayes," she began, "I come not as an invader, but as an ally. The Drakari Empire has been watching your progress for some time. We have seen your resilience, your ingenuity, and your potential. But now, we face a threat that neither of our civilizations can withstand alone. The Vorath." General Hayes exchanged uneasy glances with his advisors. The Vorath were a name they had only heard in whispers, a race said to be as ruthless as they were enigmatic. Hayes leaned forward, his expression stern. "Why should we trust you?" he asked. "The Drakari are known for their power, but also for their secrecy. What makes you think we would ally with you now?" Zalara met his gaze unflinchingly. "Because the Vorath are a threat to us all. They are relentless, and they seek the annihilation of any who stand in their way. Our intelligence indicates that they are preparing for a massive offensive. Alone, we will fall. Together, we have a chance to survive." The room fell silent as the weight of her words sank in. The decision was not an easy one, but the potential consequences of ignoring the Vorath threat were too dire to ignore. General Hayes turned to his advisors, then back to Zalara. "What do you propose?" he asked. "A united front," Zalara replied. "A combined task force, drawing on the strengths of both our peoples. Together, we can develop strategies and technologies to counter the Vorath threat, but we must act swiftly." After a tense deliberation, the UEDF agreed to the alliance. It was a gamble, but one they were willing to take. The fate of both their civilizations depended on it. The news of the alliance spread quickly through both human and Drakari territories. Reactions were mixed, with some embracing the partnership and others viewing it with suspicion. For Captain Adrian Shaw, a seasoned soldier in the UEDF, the announcement was met with cautious optimism. Captain Shaw had seen his share of battles. He had fought in skirmishes against pirates and had led missions on hostile worlds. His reputation for bravery and tactical acumen made him a natural choice to lead the human contingent in this unprecedented alliance. Shaw stood on the deck of the UEDF Titan, watching as the Drakari shuttle approached. The sleek, angular design of the Drakari ship was a stark contrast to the more utilitarian human vessels. As the shuttle docked, Shaw prepared himself for the meeting that could change the course of his career and the future of humanity. Colonel Zalara disembarked, flanked by her elite guards. She was every bit as imposing in person as the reports had suggested. Shaw stepped forward, extending a hand in greeting. "Colonel Zalara," he said, his voice steady, Welcome aboard the Titan. I'm Captain Adrian Shaw. Zalara grasped his hand, her grip firm. Captain Shaw, it is an honor. I look forward to working with you. The formalities concluded. Shaw and Zalara, along with their respective teams, gathered in the briefing room. The atmosphere was charged with a mixture of curiosity and wariness. Cultural differences were evident in their attire, their mannerisms, and even the way they spoke. General Hayes opened the meeting, outlining the strategic objectives of the alliance. Our goal is simple: to develop a unified strategy to combat the Vorath. We will share intelligence, resources, and technology. Together, we will be stronger. Shaw listened intently as the plans were laid out. The initial phase involved joint training exercises to integrate their forces, followed by reconnaissance missions to gather more information on the Vorath. It was an ambitious plan, but the stakes were too high to aim for anything less. As the meeting progressed, Shaw found himself intrigued by Zalara. She was a formidable leader, her insights into Vorath tactics invaluable. Yet there was a coldness to her, a calculating edge that made him wary. Trust would be hard-earned in this alliance. Zalara, for her part, observed Shaw closely. He was a capable leader, respected by his peers. His strategic mind was sharp, and his resolve was evident, but she sensed his underlying skepticism. Bridging the gap between their peoples would require more than just cooperation. It would require mutual respect and understanding. After the briefing, Shaw and Zalara toured the Titan, inspecting the joint training facilities. As they walked, Shaw couldn't help but address the elephant in the room. "Colonel, I have to ask," he began. "Why now? Why reveal yourselves to us at this moment?" Zalara paused, her expression thoughtful. "Because the Vorath threat has reached a tipping point. We have faced them alone for too long, and their power grows with each passing day. Your people have shown resilience and resourcefulness. Together, we have a chance to turn the tide." Shaw nodded, appreciating her honesty. "Then let's make sure we don't waste this opportunity." As they parted ways, both leaders knew the path ahead would be fraught with challenges. But in the crucible of war, they would forge a new alliance, one that could stand against even the most formidable of foes. Captain Adrian Shaw stood in the hangar bay of the UEDF Titan, watching as the Drakari delegation disembarked from their shuttle. The Drakari were an imposing sight, with their tall, muscular frames and iridescent scales that shimmered under the harsh hangar lights. Leading them was Colonel Zalara, her presence commanding and unyielding. Shaw stepped forward, flanked by his own team of elite soldiers. "Welcome aboard the Titan, Colonel Zalara. We have much to discuss." Zalara nodded, her violet eyes scanning the room. "Indeed, Captain Shaw. Let us not waste time." The two groups moved to the briefing room, where the first joint operations meeting would take place. The atmosphere was tense, a palpable sense of unease hanging in the air. Both sides knew the importance of this alliance, but the cultural divide was vast. As the meeting commenced, Shaw presented the UEDF's strategic overview of the Vorath threat. "The Vorath have been expanding aggressively, targeting both human and Drakari territories. Their technology is advanced and their tactics are ruthless. We need to coordinate our efforts to stand a chance against them." Zalara listened intently, her expression inscrutable. When it was her turn to speak, she provided detailed intelligence on Vorath movements and capabilities. "The Vorath are a nomadic race, constantly on the move. Their fleets are well armed and highly mobile. However, we have identified several weaknesses in their supply lines and command structure. Targeting these will be crucial." As the meeting progressed, it became clear that while there were differences in approach and philosophy, both sides shared a common goal. The exchange of information was candid and constructive, laying the groundwork for the cooperation that would follow. After the meeting, Shaw and Zalara decided to conduct an inspection of the joint training facilities. As they walked through the corridors of the Titan, Shaw couldn't help but notice the curious glances from his crew. The presence of the Drakari was a stark reminder of the unusual alliance they had forged. In the training bay, human and Drakari soldiers were already engaging in joint exercises. The initial awkwardness was evident, but as they ran through drills and simulations, A grudging respect began to form. Shaw watched as his soldiers adapted to the Drakari's unique combat techniques, learning to fight side by side. Zalara observed as well, her critical eye noting the strengths and weaknesses of the human soldiers. "Your men are adaptable, Captain Shaw. They learn quickly." Shaw nodded. "They've had to be. We've faced a lot of threats out here." Zalara turned to him, her expression softening slightly. "The Vorath will be unlike any threat you have faced before, but I believe that together we have a chance to prevail." Shaw met her gaze, feeling a sense of camaraderie beginning to form. "Let's make sure we do." The call to arms came sooner than anyone had anticipated. A distress signal from the mining colony on Orion 5 indicated a Vorath fleet was on the attack. The Alliance's first real test had arrived. Aboard the UEDF Titan, Shaw and Zalara quickly organized their forces. The joint task force, consisting of both human and Drakari ships, jumped into hyperspace, racing to defend the colony. As they emerged from the warp, the scene that greeted them was chaotic. Vorath ships, sleek and menacing, swarmed the colony's defenses, their weapons tearing through the meager resistance. Shaw barked orders, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. "All units, engage the Vorath ships. Protect the colony at all costs." The Titan's guns roared to life, joined by the Drakari warships. The space around Orion 5 lit up with the exchange of laser fire and explosions. The battle was fierce, the Vorath proving to be relentless adversaries. Their ships were fast and agile, their tactics brutal. Zalara's voice came over the comms, calm and authoritative. "Captain Shaw, concentrate fire on the Vorath command ship. Disrupt their coordination, and the rest will falter." Shaw relayed the order, and the combined human and Drakari forces focused their assault on the Vorath command ship. The enemy vessel was heavily armored, but under the relentless barrage, its shields began to fail. As the command ship exploded in a brilliant flash, the Vorath fleet's movements became disorganized. Seizing the opportunity, Shaw and Zalara pressed the attack, their forces cutting through the remaining Vorath ships. On the ground, the situation was dire. Vorath soldiers had breached the colony's defenses and were wreaking havoc. Shaw led a team of human and Drakari soldiers in a desperate defense. The fighting was intense, the Vorath proving to be formidable ground troops as well. Amidst the chaos, Shaw and Zalara fought side by side, their movements coordinated and precise. Shaw's rifle barked as he covered Zalara, who sliced through Vorath soldiers with her energy blade. They moved as one, a testament to the growing bond between their peoples. The battle raged for hours, but eventually the Vorath began to retreat. The combined might of the human-Drakari alliance had proven too much for them. As the last Vorath ship fled into hyperspace, a cheer went up from the defenders. Shaw surveyed the battlefield, the cost of victory evident in the smoldering wreckage and fallen soldiers. He turned to Zalara, exhaustion etched on his face. "We did it," Zalara nodded, her expression grim. "Yes, but at a great cost. We must honor those who fell today." As they returned to their ships, Shaw and Zalara knew that this was just the beginning. The Vorath were a formidable enemy, and the battles ahead would be even more challenging. But for now, they had proven that the alliance could work, that together they stood a chance against the darkness that threatened to consume them all. Back on the Ardent Fang, the atmosphere was heavy with the weight of their recent victory and the losses they had sustained. The alliance between humans and Drakari had been tested and had held, but the underlying mistrust still simmered. Captain Adrian Shaw and Colonel Zalara knew they had to address these issues head-on if their alliance was to survive the coming battles. Shaw called a meeting with Zalara in the Ardent Fang's command center. "Colonel, we need to address the tension between our troops," Shaw said bluntly. "If they can't trust each other, we'll fall apart in the next battle." Zalara nodded, her expression serious. "Agreed, Captain. Our soldiers must learn to see each other as allies, not just as temporary partners. I propose joint training exercises to build camaraderie and understanding." They organized a series of rigorous drills and simulations. The first days were marked by friction and misunderstandings. Human soldiers were unaccustomed to the Drakari's disciplined and hierarchical approach, while the Drakari found the humans' more improvisational tactics chaotic. One such exercise, a simulated urban assault, highlighted the differences starkly. Human soldiers, relying on their instincts and adaptability, clashed with the Drakari's regimented formations. Tempers flared, and a heated argument broke out between two soldiers. Shaw intervened, his voice commanding. "Enough! We need to learn from each other, not fight amongst ourselves." Zalara stepped forward, her presence silencing the room. "Captain Shaw is right. We are stronger together. Let us use our differences to our advantage." Gradually, both sides began to adapt. Human soldiers learned to appreciate the Drakari's discipline and tactical precision, while the Drakari started to see the value in human flexibility and creativity. Bonds began to form, and a sense of mutual respect grew. One evening, after a particularly grueling exercise, Shaw and Zalara shared a rare moment of downtime. Sitting in the observation lounge, they looked out at the stars. "It's not easy," Shaw admitted, sipping a drink, "but I think we're getting there." Zalara nodded, her eyes thoughtful. "Trust is earned, not given. We are on the right path." Shaw turned to her, a question that had been nagging at him, finally finding voice. "Colonel, why did you choose to ally with us? You had no guarantee we would accept." Zalara's gaze was steady. "Because we had no other choice. The Vorath are a threat to us all. Your people have shown resilience and resourcefulness. I believed that together, we could stand a chance." Shaw nodded, appreciating her honesty. "Then let's make sure we don't waste this opportunity." As they continued their joint training and preparations, the bond between Shaw and Zalara grew stronger. They found themselves confiding in each other, sharing not just tactical insights but personal stories and experiences. The unlikely friendship that was forming between them became a symbol of the potential for unity between their peoples. The soldiers, too, began to reflect this growing unity. Joint missions became more fluid, with human and Drakari soldiers covering each other seamlessly. The initial wariness was giving way to a camaraderie forged in the crucible of battle. The alliance still had many challenges ahead, but the trust and respect that were slowly taking root gave Shaw and Zalara hope. They knew that together, they stood a better chance of facing whatever the Vorath threw at them next. As the alliance between humans and Drakari solidified, Captain Adrian Shaw couldn't shake the feeling that Colonel Zalara was hiding something significant. Despite their growing trust, there was a part of her that remained closed off, guarded. His suspicions were confirmed when he intercepted a Drakari transmission that mentioned the Vorath in a way that suggested a deeper connection. One evening, Shaw decided to confront Zalara. He found her in the command center, studying star charts and tactical reports. "Colonel, we need to talk," he said, his tone leaving no room for evasion. Zalara looked up, her expression cautious. "What is it, Captain?" Shaw took a deep breath. "You've been hiding something from us, Colonel. What aren't you telling us about the Vorath?" For a moment, Zalara's face was unreadable. Then she sighed, a sound of deep resignation. "You are right, Captain. There is something I have not told you. The Vorath are an offshoot of the Drakari. A long time ago, they were part of our civilization, but they were exiled for their extremist views. They evolved into what they are now, a relentless force bent on conquest and destruction." Shaw was stunned. "So this war is partly your fault?" Zalara's gaze was unyielding. "We bear responsibility, yes. The Vorath were once Drakari, but their ideology and practices became so abhorrent that we cast them out. They have been a scourge ever since, a dark chapter of our history we hope to forget. But now, their actions threaten us all." Shaw's mind raced as he processed this revelation. "Why didn't you tell us this from the start?" "Because I feared it would undermine our alliance," Zalara admitted. "I feared you would see us as no different from the Vorath. But now, with the stakes so high, you deserve to know the truth. We must defeat them, to atone for our past and ensure a future for both our peoples." Shaw nodded slowly. "This changes things, but it also makes our mission clearer. We have to stop the Vorath, not just for our survival, but to end this threat once and for all." Zalara extended a hand. "Together, Captain. We can do this together." Shaw shook her hand, sealing their renewed resolve. "Together," he agreed. The revelation about the Vorath's origins spread through the ranks, causing a stir. There was initial outrage and suspicion, but Shaw and Zalara addressed their troops, explaining the importance of unity and the shared goal of defeating the Vorath. "We cannot change the past," Shaw said, his voice carrying conviction, "but we can shape the future. The Vorath are a threat to us all, and we must stand united against them." Zalara stood beside him, her voice steady. "The Drakari take full responsibility for the Vorath, but this is not just our fight. It is a fight for all of us, for our right to exist and thrive. Together, we are stronger." As the troops absorbed this information, a renewed sense of purpose took hold. The mission was no longer just about survival. It was about righting a wrong and ensuring a future free from the shadow of the Vorath. Despite the revelation about the Vorath, the Alliance pressed on. Their next mission was to gather critical intelligence on Vorath operations by infiltrating a remote outpost located in uncharted space. The journey was perilous, with unknown dangers lurking in the void. The combined fleet, consisting of both human and Drakari ships, set course for the Vorath outpost. The trip through hyperspace was tense, with the crews on high alert for any signs of trouble. As they approached their destination, strange spatial anomalies began to disrupt their sensors and navigation systems. Captain Shaw and Colonel Zalara stood on the bridge of the UEDF Titan, monitoring the situation closely. "These anomalies are like nothing we've seen before," Shaw remarked, frowning at the data streaming across the screens. Zalara nodded. "The Vorath chose this location for a reason. It's naturally protected and difficult to navigate. We must proceed with caution." The fleet slowed as they entered the anomaly field, the ships maneuvering carefully to avoid the strange gravitational distortions and energy fluctuations. Suddenly, a massive creature emerged from one of the anomalies, its bioluminescent body pulsing with energy. The creature attacked the fleet, its powerful tentacles lashing out at the ships. "All hands, battle stations," Shaw ordered. "Defend the fleet." The ships opened fire, their weapons lighting up the darkness. The creature was resilient, its thick hide absorbing much of the damage. Zalara coordinated the Drakari forces, their advanced weaponry targeting the creature's weak points. After a fierce battle, the creature was finally defeated, its body dissolving back into the anomaly. The fleet pressed on, navigating through the remaining anomalies with heightened vigilance. They arrived at the Vorath outpost, a fortified base on a barren, rocky planet. The outpost was heavily guarded, with Vorath ships patrolling the area and ground forces manning the defenses. Shaw and Zalara assembled a team to infiltrate the outpost. The team consisted of elite soldiers from both the UEDF and the Drakari, their combined skills and expertise crucial for the mission's success. They landed on the planet under the cover of darkness, using stealth technology to avoid detection. The terrain was harsh and unforgiving, with jagged rocks and deep crevasses making the journey treacherous. The team moved quickly and silently, their advanced gear helping them navigate the difficult landscape. As they approached the outpost, they encountered Vorath patrols, engaging in brief but intense skirmishes to neutralize the threat. Inside the outpost, the team split up to gather intelligence. Shaw and Zalara led the main group, while smaller squads secured key points and hacked into the Vorath data networks. They discovered detailed plans for a massive Vorath offensive, confirming their worst fears. As they downloaded the data, alarms blared throughout the outpost. The team had been detected, and Vorath soldiers swarmed the area. Shaw and Zalara fought their way through the outpost, their team covering each other and utilizing their training to stay alive. "Fall back to the extraction point," Shaw ordered, his voice cutting through the chaos. "We've got what we need." The team moved swiftly, fighting off Vorath soldiers as they made their way to the extraction point. The battle was intense, with explosions and gunfire echoing through the rocky terrain. Despite the overwhelming odds, the team managed to reach their transport and escape the outpost, narrowly avoiding capture. Back on the Titan, the team reviewed the intelligence they had gathered. The Vorath were planning a large-scale assault on several key targets, including both human and Drakari worlds. The information was invaluable, but the mission had come at a high cost, with several team members injured or killed in the process. Returning to their fleet, Shaw and Zalara immediately began analyzing the data they had recovered. It quickly became clear that the Vorath were preparing for a major offensive, targeting strategic locations across both human and Drakari territories. The urgency of the situation was palpable. "We need to act fast," Shaw said, his eyes scanning the tactical displays. "We have to warn our forces and prepare our defenses." Zalara nodded. "Agreed. But we must also strike first, disrupt their plans before they can fully mobilize. A preemptive strike on their main staging ground could buy us the time we need." They relayed the intelligence to their respective commands, coordinating a joint strike force to hit the Vorath staging ground. The fleet moved swiftly, jumping into hyperspace and heading towards the target. Spirits were high, buoyed by the prospect of disrupting the Vorath plans and gaining the upper hand. However, as they emerged from hyperspace, they were met with a grim surprise. The Vorath had anticipated their move. The staging ground was a trap, with a massive Vorath fleet lying in wait. The ambush was perfectly orchestrated, and the Allied fleet found themselves surrounded. "All ships evasive maneuvers," Shaw shouted, his voice urgent. "Prepare for combat." The Vorath fleet attacked with ferocity, their ships swarming around the human and Drakari vessels. The battle was chaotic, with explosions lighting up the void and debris scattering in all directions. The Allied fleet fought back valiantly, but the Vorath had the advantage of surprise and superior numbers. On the bridge of the Titan, Shaw and Zalara coordinated their forces, issuing rapid-fire orders to try and regain control of the situation. Despite their best efforts, the losses were mounting. The Vorath ships were fast and well-armed, their tactics ruthless. "We need to take out their command ship," Zalara said, her voice steady despite the chaos. "It's the key to their coordination." Shaw nodded. "Agreed. All units, focus fire on the Vorath command ship." The Allied ships converged on the Vorath command ship, their weapons unleashing a barrage of firepower. The Vorath vessel was heavily shielded, but the combined assault began to wear it down. The command ship's defenses buckled under the relentless attack, and with a final, devastating salvo, it exploded in a massive fireball. With their command ship destroyed, the Vorath fleet's coordination faltered. The Allied forces pressed the advantage, pushing the Vorath back and reclaiming control of the battlefield. The tide of the battle turned, but the cost had been high. As the remnants of the Vorath fleet retreated, the Allied ships regrouped. The aftermath of the ambush was grim, with many ships damaged or destroyed, and numerous casualties among the crews. Shaw and Zalara surveyed the scene, their faces reflecting the heavy toll of the battle. Back on the Ardent Fang, the mood was somber. The Alliance had survived the ambush, but the losses were a harsh reminder of the stakes they faced. Shaw and Zalara gathered their remaining forces, addressing them with a mixture of resolve and solemnity. "We were caught off guard today," Shaw began, his voice carrying through the hangar bay. "But we fought back, and we showed the Vorath that we will not be easily defeated. We must learn from this, become stronger and more vigilant." Zalara stepped forward, her eyes fierce. "The Vorath sought to break us, but they have only strengthened our resolve. We honor those who fell today by continuing the fight, by ensuring their sacrifice was not in vain." The soldiers, both human and Drakari, responded with a resounding cheer. The bond between them had been tested and had held firm. The battle had been a costly lesson, but it had also forged a deeper unity among the Allied forces. As Shaw and Zalara planned their next moves, they knew that the path ahead would be fraught with challenges. But the trust and respect that had grown between their peoples gave them hope. Together, they would face whatever the Vorath threw at them next, stronger and more determined than ever. The aftermath of the ambush left both human and Drakari forces reeling. Many lives had been lost, and the survivors were struggling to come to terms with the heavy toll the battle had taken. The fleet limped back to the nearest Allied base for repairs and regrouping. Captain Adrian Shaw and Colonel Zalara stood in the medbay, visiting the wounded soldiers. The sight of their comrades lying injured, some critically, was a stark reminder of the cost of their fight against the Vorath. The air was thick with the scent of antiseptics and the low hum of medical equipment. "We need to rally the troops," Shaw said quietly as they left the medbay. "Morale is at an all-time low. They need to know their sacrifices mean something." Zalara nodded, her expression somber. "Agreed. We must honor the fallen and inspire the living to continue the fight." They organized memorial services for the fallen soldiers, human and Drakari alike. In a large hangar converted into a temporary memorial, soldiers gathered to pay their respects. Photographs of the fallen were displayed, and their names were read aloud, each name a reminder of the personal cost of the war. Shaw stepped forward to address the assembly, his voice carrying a mix of sorrow and determination. "Today we honor those who gave their lives for our survival. They were our friends, our comrades, our heroes. We owe it to them to keep fighting, to make their sacrifice count." Zalara joined him, her voice strong and clear. "The Vorath seek to break our spirit, but they underestimate our resolve. We stand united, stronger together than apart. Let us carry the memory of our fallen with us as we continue this fight." The ceremonies helped to heal some of the emotional wounds, but the physical and strategic challenges remained. Repairs to the fleet were underway, but resources were stretched thin. Shaw and Zalara held meetings with their senior officers to strategize their next moves. "We can't afford another surprise like that," Shaw said, studying the tactical map. "We need better intelligence and more robust defenses." Zalara agreed. "Our forces need time to recover, but we must also prepare for the Vorath's next move. They won't wait for us to regroup." In the following weeks, Shaw and Zalara focused on rebuilding and strengthening their forces. They conducted joint training exercises to improve coordination and readiness. The bond between human and Drakari soldiers deepened as they trained, ate, and lived together, forging a camaraderie that would be essential in the battles to come. Despite their efforts, the weight of the war hung heavy on everyone. Shaw and Zalara often found themselves reflecting on the personal toll the conflict had taken. Late one night, as they reviewed reports in the command center, Shaw broke the silence. "Do you ever wonder if we're doing the right thing?" he asked, his voice tinged with weariness. Zalara looked at him, her gaze steady. "Every day. But doubt is a luxury we cannot afford. We must trust in our mission and in each other. Together, we will see this through." Shaw nodded, taking strength from her resolve. "You're right. For our fallen, and for those still fighting, we can't give up." As they prepared for a major offensive, a shocking betrayal threatened to unravel everything they had worked for. A human officer named Lieutenant Commander Jason Kerr had been secretly collaborating with the Vorath, swayed by promises of power and wealth. His actions had nearly led to disaster in the previous ambush, and now his treachery was about to come to light. It started with small anomalies in communications and strange discrepancies in mission reports. Shaw's suspicion grew as he noticed patterns that didn't add up. He shared his concerns with Zalara, who agreed to investigate further. Their investigation led them to Kerr's quarters, where they found encrypted messages and evidence of his communications with the Vorath. The betrayal was undeniable. Kerr was arrested and brought before a military tribunal, where his actions were revealed to all. As the tribunal unfolded, the room was filled with a mix of anger and disbelief. Kerr stood before them, unrepentant. "The Vorath offered me a future," he said defiantly. "A chance to be on the winning side. I took it." Shaw's voice was cold with fury. "You betrayed your comrades, your people, for a promise of power. How many lives were lost because of your greed?" Kerr sneered. "More will die if you keep fighting. The Vorath are unstoppable. You're just prolonging the inevitable." The tribunal sentenced Kerr to life imprisonment, a fate many believed was too lenient. The betrayal left a scar on the alliance, shaking the trust between human and Drakari forces. Shaw and Zalara knew they had to act quickly to restore confidence. In a meeting with their senior officers, Shaw addressed the issue head-on. "This betrayal cannot define us. We must root out any remaining threats and ensure the integrity of our forces. Trust is our most valuable asset, and we must rebuild it." Zalara added, "We will increase security measures and improve our intelligence protocols. We cannot afford to let our guard down again." The discovery of Kerr's betrayal led to a thorough review of their security systems and the implementation of more stringent checks. It was a challenging time, but the process brought the remaining soldiers closer together, reinforcing their commitment to the alliance. In the midst of this turmoil, Shaw and Zalara found strength in each other. Their shared determination to protect their people and uphold the alliance became a beacon of hope. They held meetings with the troops, addressing their concerns and reaffirming their mission. "We are stronger together," Shaw told a gathering of soldiers. "We face many challenges, but united, we can overcome them. The Vorath want us to doubt each other. We will not give them that satisfaction." Zalara stood beside him, her voice firm. "Our strength lies in our unity. Let this betrayal serve as a reminder of what we fight for. Together we will prevail." As the alliance moved forward, the lessons learned from the betrayal fortified their resolve. The bond between human and Drakari soldiers grew stronger, forged in the fires of adversity. Shaw and Zalara knew the road ahead would be difficult, but they were ready to face whatever challenges came their way, united in their purpose and unwavering in their determination.